Hey, I got the chat ready. I got everything ready, I think. I think I'm ready.
Message.
Damn. Had to drink some coffee, my bad. I'm gonna get right real quick. I'll be out with y'all in a second.
Message.
Think about.
Message.
My mic is muted. Hey, we almost ready. I'm doing a little shit behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying? So bear with me. Give me a second. You dig?
Message.
Both objectives have fallen. Fall back to the next sector.
Hey, what's up? What's up? All right, let's see what we got.
Hostile at the perimeter. Be ready. The enemy will try to take our objectives and control the sector. Do not allow them to succeed.
Up we go. Gotcha.
Incendiary gas. What? Must have been on fire. I didn't even see it. More smite. More smite. More smoke, dice.
I'm reloading. Down. Cover me. I'm reloading.
Holy shit. Barely seen him. Somebody get him. What? Try to revive me? Nice try, though. I don't think I would have done it, but
Reloading!
Пытайтесь помочь!
God damn, they pulled up. Damn, I should have stayed where I was.
Назад! Подходите!
They've planted explosives.
Let's see what Alan Watts got to talk about real quick.
Very basic in our thinking. Does it say one must live? We need to survive, to go on. We need money for food, for this, that, and the other. We must go on.
Don't let me die over here!
Let me die over here.
And we know that we're not going to get away with it for very long. That
The enemy has neutralized our
after a certain
objective.
number of years, we're going to die. The thing is going to end. The thing that we call I is going to be as it is in sleep, deep sleep, with no dreams. But that between now and that happening, there may be the most ghastly pains. Not only perhaps the pains of physical disease, or being wounded or hurt, but the pains of worrying about
Let's get going!
our failure of responsibility to people who depend on us.
Right?
And we suffer other people's suffering simply because we're sensitive and have imagination. We participate in their sufferings, and our adrenaline and our chemicals respond simply by imagination to the sufferings of other people. And so we can look at these problems and say, now, all these problems cannot be solved in a physical way. That is to say, we do not expect in our lifetime that medical skill will make us exempt from death.
Damn. Right?
We do not seriously expect that human beings will all learn to be nice to each other and will refrain from war and horrors of that kind, racial prejudice and so on. We don't seriously expect to find a method of being protected by taking some sort of drug against all possible disease and pain.
Right?
So therefore we say,
It's futile,
now maybe there's
man.
another way around. Maybe that instead of solving these problems at the technical level, we could solve them at the psychological and spiritual level by so disciplining ourselves,
God
by
damn.
so doing something with ourselves,
On the roof.
that we wouldn't be afraid of it anymore. And so, in accord with that motivation, we seek out spiritual teachers, psychological teachers, this, that, and the
Gurus?
other.
Yeah.
Could we somehow be made over so that we don't
Fuck. Fucking
worry
fail.
about the quaking mess? And you see, if you examine, that this
Oh, I should have been ready coming around
wanting
the
to
corner.
overcome the quaking mess and not have it anymore,
Is not secure.
that precisely is the quaking mess. The thing
And we're getting pushed back. but-
that we object to about ourselves is precisely what we do about overcoming it. In other words, the activity that we employ in overcoming it is the mess that we object to. Do you see that? And it's very important to realize that. Then if you do realize it, you raise the question, what can I do to transform the quaking mess? Well, if you are the quaking mess, there is obviously nothing you can do to transform
Right.
yourself into the state of mind which you idealize as that of being the true mystic, the Christ, the saint, or whatever.
fuck? Should have looked to the right. I knew they was over there too. But I ain't wanna
So
look over there.
you realize that everything is phony. All your ideals are simply manifestations of the quaking mess, trying to
Right.
get away from itself.
Order out of chaos. Where the fuck is everybody at? Oh, right there. Oh, okay. The fucking sun.
And that you are put in the position of, it is absolutely necessary for me to be different from the way I am. But there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, because being the way I am, I cannot be different from that. But if we can put it in different
Damn.
ways. I know that I ought not to be selfish. And I would very much like to be an unselfish person. But the reason why I want to be an unselfish person is that I am very selfish and would far more love myself and respect myself if I were unselfish. You see?
Right.
I know that I ought to love God.
Paradox of life.
Well, because God is the biggest boss. And it's best to be on the side of the big battalion. In other words, because I'm looking for the safety of my own spiritual skin. But you realize when you really look into yourself, there's nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do. It's going down
This,
for a second, though.
therefore, is our point of departure. That we here mutually realize there is nothing we can do
Oh,
to
shit,
be
I'm back.
anything else than what we are. To feel any other way than what we feel at this moment. And to be then this quaking mess. However, this isn't as much of a blind alley, a cul-de-sac, as it sounds.
God damn, somebody see me right there, too, laying down.
Because if you discover a blind alley,
Не подходите к моей позиции!
it tells you something.
There we go. Thanks, bro.
Watch the flow of water when it
Watch the
crosses
flow of water.
over
Be like
an area
water.
of land. And you will see that it puts out fingers. And some of them stop because they come into blind alleys. And the water doesn't pursue that course. It simply rises. And then it finds a way it can go.
Fuck. I tried to get up there and throw some C4.
But it never uses any effort. It only uses weight, gravity. It takes the line of least resistance and eventually finds a course.
Water.
Now we will do the same thing, only we're ashamed of it, but we're going to do it anyway. We think that when we come to a dead end, a blind alley, oh, I failed. Supposing the water, at each place where a finger of water stretches out over dry ground and doesn't go any further because the land is too high, the water were to say to itself, I failed. We would say it was neurotic water. Just wait, and it will find a way. Now, when you find that there's no way of transforming yourself to become this fearless, joyous, divine
Damn.
being as distinct from the quaking mess, this is not a gloomy announcement. It is a very, very important communication.
Watts. He be cooking too in his own right.
Telling you something. As the land is telling the water, this isn't the way to go. There's another way. Try over
There's
here.
too many people shooting at me.
So
that
in the
time.
same way, life is telling you that's not the way to go. It's telling you
He got shotgunned down.
the you that you imagine to be capable of transforming yourself doesn't exist. In other words, an ego, an I, separate from my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences, who is supposed to be in control of them, cannot control them because it isn't there. And as soon as you understand that, things will be vastly improved.
So many people everywhere, man. Sheesh. Alright, Alan Watts be cooking though too. I ain't gonna cap. Alright. Hold on, we'll go to this one next. Actually, or this one. I'm not sure. Hold on, let's go to this one for now. Till we figure it out, you know what I'm saying? Holy shit, oh, they in the corner? I should have just threw C4. If I'd have known, bro. About to go back over there, though. Fuck it. You got this shit touched up real quick. God damn, bro. The fuck? Fucking drone. They beat us.
Today. The battle is lost.
It's all good. It happens. That shit was crazy. Alright, let's check out this shit real quick. Alright, y'all buckle y'all seatbelts because this video about 35 minutes. Mine unveiled with the banger.
Hey guys. Today, we're going to take a look at a lesser known history involving ancient technologies that you might think belong more in a sci-fi movie than in the dusty pages of historical text. We're going to be talking about ancient directed energy weapons, or DEWs. Sounds futuristic?
Direct energy
Well,
weapons.
you'd be surprised to learn how far
Uh-oh.
back these kinds of technologies actually go, and how they may have been hidden, dismissed, or even covered up over time. So let's get to it.
Let's
start off with Archimedes. I'm sure many of you
Let's start around one more time. Like I said, shout out Unveiled or Mine Unveiled. That's the channel right there. Y'all can see it on the screen, right? All right, cool. But yeah, check them out if y'all want to watch some more of this type shit on your own time, you know?
Hey guys. Today, we're going to take a look at a lesser known history involving ancient technologies that you might think belong more in a sci-fi movie than in the dusty pages of historical text. We're going to be talking about ancient directed energy weapons, or DEWs. Sounds futuristic? Well, you'd be surprised to learn how far back these kinds of technologies actually go, and how they may have been hidden, dismissed, or even covered up over time. So let's get to it. So let's start off with Archimedes. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with his name. He's that ancient Greek guy that we all learned about in school, credited with inventions like the Archimedes screw and famously known for running around the streets naked shouting Eureka. Which, if you think about it, is a really weird story. As if Archimedes was some type of figure made to represent the technology and understandings of a previous time encapsulated into a single figure. But here's where it gets interesting. Archimedes is also often associated with creating an ancient death ray, a weapon that supposedly set Roman ships ablaze during the siege of Syracuse. This is a very well-known story, yet, when brought up today, this account is often dismissed as myth or propaganda. So what's going on here? Could this story be more grounded in reality than we've been led to believe?
Yeah, that's
And
right
if this
there.
really was an ancient device that could melt metal,
Border in Nevada and
then what are the
California.
implications? Could it have been a tool for causing resets, eradicating warring nations, or even wiping out entire civilizations? Archimedes is famously credited for principles in hydrostatics and mechanics, exemplified by inventions such as the Archimedes screw, used for water irrigation, and mechanical devices like the Claw of Archimedes, which is accepted to have been actually used in ancient times, but for some reason, historians think that this ancient heat ray is too fanciful of a tale, and that it was debunked by Mythbusters. Even History Channel has a video on it, but they cover the good information and then say it's aliens, which is just a shame. Is it too far-fetched to consider that the ancients devised a way to amplify light for thermal applications? If Archimedes' other inventions were not only plausible but revolutionary, why would this particular story be a fabrication? Is it not within the realm of possibility that a genius who revolutionized multiple fields of science could engineer a way to focus sunlight as a weapon? Especially when we consider that modern experiments, while not universally conclusive, have indeed shown that focusing sunlight to ignite a combustible material is possible. So could it be that we're dealing with various interpretations or even lost variations of an ancient device? It's important to recognize that the understandings of optics was far from rudimentary in ancient times. The Greeks and Romans had a reasonably sophisticated grasp of lenses and light reflection. Moreover, text from antiquity suggests that Archimedes used burning glasses as part of his death ray.
Burning glass.
This opens up a whole new avenue, as are we not confusing burning mirrors with burning glasses? Two technologies that, although similar, are not the same. This distinction might be the key to understanding the blurry line between myth and reality in the Archimedes tale. It could be that what we call a death ray today was actually an advanced use of burning glasses or Fresnel lenses and mirrors,
Right, Fresnel
which had
lenses.
legitimate and varied applications in antiquity. Burning glasses have been a topic of fascination for millennia. They're essentially large convex lenses that focus the sun's rays into a small area, intensifying the heat to such a degree that they could start fires or cauterize wounds. And this isn't just a legend. This is backed up by multiple historical accounts. Roman writers like Pliny the Elder noted the use of glass vases filled with water to concentrate sunlight enough to ignite clothing. Plutarch described a burning mirror at the temple of the Vestal Virgins. This temple was used to relight the sacred fire of Vesta, which was an eternal flame in ancient Rome.
Like the Olympic
If
flame.
it, the fire, happens by an accident to be put out, it is not to be lighted again from another fire, but new fire is to be gained by drawing a pure and unpolluted flame from the
From the
sunbeams.
sun.
They kindle it generally with concave vessels of brass, formed by hollowing out an isosceles rectangular triangle, whose lines from the circumference meet in one single point. This being placed against the sun, causes its rays to converge in the center, which by reflection, acquiring the force and activity of fire, rarefy the air, and immediately kindle such light and dry matter as they think fit to apply." End quote. Aristophanes, the great playwright, even mentioned the burning lens in his play The Clouds as far back as 424 BC.
Damn.
Quote,
Long time
Strepsiades
ago.
says, "Have you ever seen a beautiful transparent stone at the druggist, with which you may kindle fire?" Socrates says, "You mean a crystal lens." Strepsiades says, "That's right. Well, now if I place myself with this stone in the sun, and a long way off from the clerk, while he was writing out the conviction, I can make all the wax upon which the words were written melt." End quote. Another version goes, quote, "Under further encouragement from Socrates to slacken his thought into air, he imagined melting away the wax tablet carrying his indictment with a sunbeam reflected through a glass lens." End quote. Which is interesting because Plato compares wax tablets to human memory. More importantly, this reference comes about 200 years before the supposed dating of the siege of Syracuse. So let's be clear, ancient thinkers already understood that sunbeams could melt or burn objects when
Exactly.
concentrated through a glass lens. Also, it's worth noting that Fresnel lenses initially were called burning glasses, and they essentially do the same thing. During our deep dives into lighthouse research, I've encountered numerous accounts claiming that the Fresnel lenses at the
Lighthouses.
top could function as a death ray. Interestingly, almost all the original lighthouses had Fresnel lenses, but they've been conveniently replaced in modern times. There are even videos online
Yeah.
demonstrating the formidable power of these Fresnel lenses. Are we really supposed to believe that this knowledge was absent in antiquity?
Nah, they knew.
So this
they
apparent
knew
legend
about
of
it.
Archimedes may be misunderstood because it wasn't until centuries after the event that it was discussed and contemplated by other Greek authors. The absence of contemporary sources has fueled skepticism. However, it's entirely possible that such groundbreaking technology would be kept under wraps. Just because a few Greek historians like Polybius,
Right.
Titus, and Plutarch
ain't
had
trying to
covered
tell
the Roman
everybody.
siege of Syracuse, yet did not mention the death ray, does not automatically conclude that it never existed. Could it be that such a devastating weapon was deliberately omitted from historical records?
Exactly.
If we're open to the idea that Archimedes himself might be a
omission
made
is
of
still
figure
lying.
created to house the technologies of a bygone era, then the silence surrounding this weapon might be more revealing than we think. Another point skeptics often bring up is Diocles, born 50 years after Archimedes, who wrote a work called On Burning Mirrors. This is the first documented proof that parabolic mirrors could focus light. Critics point out that while Diocles talks about a contemporary of Archimedes, he never mentions that Archimedes built a death ray. Sure, but let's not miss the forest for the trees here. Diocles' entire work is literally about how to burn things with mirrors. Plus, we don't even have the original text, just translations and copies. Interestingly, right after this discussing burning mirrors, Diocles brings up Archimedes in relation to geometry. Could this be a hidden nod? Secret or not, Diocles goes in depth about the power of these burning mirrors and the nature of conic shapes. He confirms when a shape is curved into a parabola, it has enormous burning power. This is backed up by a 14th century encyclopedic work by Muhammad B. Ibrahim B. Said al-Akfani describing how the ancients used to make these mirrors. Some were flat surfaces, others made them concave, but it was Diocles who showed that parabolic curves had the greatest burning power. So are we to believe that just because there's contradicting information, the story's not true? Or could it be that we're not getting the full picture?
Blues
Let's
that.
consider the phantom timeline hypothesis for a moment. Why is there such a gap between Arabic sources and ancient Greek authors on this matter? Could it be that stories of naked men running through the streets are exaggerated or even fabricated, adding to the inconsistencies in these historical accounts? Interesting to note is that more references to Archimedes and his death ray emerge about 400 years after his supposed death in mainstream timelines. These references are found in texts like Hippias or The Bath, attributed to Lucian of Samosata. Yet, within this disputed text, there's a direct nod to the story of Archimedes' death ray. Archimedes is said to have burned enemy ships using science. He doesn't explicitly mention a death ray, but this is considered an ancient reference to Archimedes using fire, combined with science or advanced skill, to destroy enemy ships. Now that's a big deal. One could argue that this might simply be an innovative use of fire, akin to Greek fire, but then why didn't the author delve into more detail? Given that the subject of burning mirrors and glasses is ancient, is there a reason why this particular knowledge has been relegated to myth? The other two ancient references to this death ray come from a medical treatise by Galen. He states, quote, "I suppose that Archimedes is
Damn,
said
where'd
to
I
have
get
set
shot
fire to the enemy ships using fiery stuff." End quote.
Fiery what?
But the translation is
Stuff?
not 100% reliable. The Greek word used here is a bit of a puzzler when it comes to fire. It could refer to holy fires or fires associated with offerings, so the story gets a little bit more complicated. The next reference doesn't come until about 700 years after Archimedes. The skeptics often question, why aren't these events referenced in earlier sources? How can someone come in centuries later and speak of such a fanciful tale if so much time has passed since the actual events? This isn't definitive proof, but it does add an element of confusion to our perceived timeline of history. This next reference comes from the mathematician Anthemius of Tralles, who was attempting to decipher the method Archimedes might have used. He suggests that Archimedes could have set Roman ships ablaze using mirrors. This means that people knew of the story and understood the end result, that ships were
Damn,
burned
bro.
from a distance. What they lacked was the specific method, technique, or properties needed to replicate it. Anthemius speculates
Yeah,
that
they
it puzzler when it comes to
definitely
fire. It could refer to holy fires or fires associated with offerings, so the story gets a little bit more complicated. The next reference doesn't come until about 700 years after Archimedes. The skeptics often question, why aren't these events referenced in earlier sources? How can someone come in centuries later and speak of such a fanciful tale if so much time has passed since the actual events? This isn't definitive proof, but it does add an element of confusion to our perceived timeline of history. This next reference comes from the mathematician Anthemius of Tralles, who was attempting to decipher the method Archimedes might have used. He suggests that Archimedes could have set Roman ships ablaze using mirrors. This means that people knew of the story and understood the end result,
Right.
that ships were burned from a distance. What they lacked was the specific method, technique, or properties needed to replicate it. Anthemius speculates that it might have been done using mirrors. His claims come from a manuscript titled Mechanical Paradoxes, which even has a chapter dedicated to burning glasses. Anthemius' speculation isn't just a shot in the dark. He appears pretty convinced that this method would indeed lead to a conflagration, a large-scale fire wherever it was focused. The narrative that we often hear revolves around the defensive use of this technology, particularly against invading naval fleets. But what if its applications extended beyond just defense? What if it had other uses that were so impactful or potentially dangerous that very few details about its construction have been left for us to find? Skeptics see the varying versions of these tales as proof that they're fabricated, but I see it differently. To me, these discrepancies are not evidence that the story is false, but rather that it's a piece of lost technology. The accounts that we do have are likely attempts at reconstructing or rediscovering it. If there were no mentions of Archimedes using burning mirrors prior to the time of Anthemius, then where did he get the idea? So the notion that this was all just invented out of thin air doesn't really hold up. Let's remember, discussions of parabolic curved mirrors capable of focusing light into intense heat were occurring just 50 years after Archimedes' death. And these burning glasses and mirrors had applications in ancient Rome, even for something as mundane as cooking food.
Making bread
So might
and
it be
shit.
possible that Archimedes serves as a kind of cover, a symbolic figure standing in for a lost technology that used a combination of curved mirrors and lenses? In 1973, Greek scientist Dr. Ioannis Sakis conducted an experiment using 60 sailors with oblong mirrors to focus the sun's rays on a wooden ship 160 feet away, successfully setting it on fire and providing modern evidence that Archimedes could feasibly have used similar technology, a concept also supported by today's solar furnaces, which operate on a parallel principle to achieve extremely high temperatures of
furnace.
10,000 suns. What's intriguing is that referring to Archimedes' supposed device, the descriptors switch between burning glass and mirrors. It could be a translation issue, or perhaps Archimedes was actually using some form of lens or ancient magnifying glass to set ships ablaze from a distance. Though skeptics like Kepler and Descartes dismiss the idea as fanciful, its validity is affirmed by a host of others, like Diodorus Siculus, Lucian, Dion, Zonaras, Galen, Anthemius, Eustathius, and Tzetzes. Tzetzes even went so far as to devise a method through which this could have been achieved using multiple mirrors. Reports describe that Archimedes' invention set not just one or two, but an entire Roman fleet on fire, reducing it to ash. So what are we really talking about here? Mirrors or burning glasses? The evidence suggests that it could be either or even both. It's well documented that the ancients were quite familiar with refractive burning glasses.
Right.
Aristophanes even mentions them in his comedy The
Optics.
Clouds, and the magnifying properties of glass filled with water were common knowledge in Roman times. But let's go beyond ships. Could this technology have been used to set ablaze or even
Reset.
melt entire cities? If so, it makes sense why such a technology would be cloaked in secrecy. Think about the Greek fire, another ancient weapon lost to time, which functioned essentially as an ancient flamethrower. This technology was a tightly guarded state secret, so if something like Greek fire was kept under wraps,
Damn.
you can bet that a death ray, a device capable of setting fire from an even greater distance, would be far more confidential. While there are educated guesses regarding the composition of Greek fire, its exact makeup remains a mystery. Could it be that they were intentionally keeping advanced, potentially catastrophic technologies a secret? That may seem far-fetched, but there is evidence to actually support this claim. It's just that it has been labeled as a result of ancient aliens. Throughout Scotland, there are numerous ancient ruins that could have served as fortifications or even entire cities. What's intriguing is that many have been subjected to extreme heat, intense enough to turn the stone structures into glass. This phenomena is known as vitrified forts, and it's been thoroughly investigated by scholars. Originally thought to be unique to Scotland, similar structures have since been discovered in other parts of Western and Northern Europe. We're talking about massive rock forts like Dun Beardle that have been completely melted. Built around 500 BC, some speculate that Stone Age people would have needed laser-like technology to achieve this level of heat. Could it have been some ancient superweapon capable of melting stone? While fans of Graham Hancock and ancient alien theories are open to the
Ancient
idea that the
aliens.
ancients had technology for melting stone for construction, they often stop short of considering that such devices could be used for large-scale destruction, potentially wiping out entire civilizations. Most of these vitrified forts are located in Ireland and Scotland. We're talking about castles that have undergone vitrification. These vitrified forts are sometimes referred to as raths, which mean fortress in Irish. Many researchers have entertained the possibility that this could have been an act of warfare, but that would require someone having technology capable of melting stone. Vitrification occurs at temperatures exceeding 2000 degrees Fahrenheit and sometimes up to 3000 degrees, making it unlikely that mere timber fires could achieve this effect. Could the Romans have been involved? The timeline is suggestive.
Right?
The Romans were at odds with the Druids around the time these forts are believed to have been built, and the dating of these structures aligns roughly with the Roman siege of Syracuse. Maybe the story of Archimedes' death ray should be flipped. It wasn't the Greeks, but the Romans who may have had such technology. If this didn't occur, it's likely they would have sought to develop such a device themselves. Could these vitrified forts be evidence of some kind of ancient directed energy weapon, used to obliterate entire cities? This phenomenon is not limited to Ireland or Scotland. Evidence of similar melting effects can be seen in Turkey, affecting many castles as well as the geological structures in Cappadocia. Though Ireland is often associated with vitrified forts, this phenomenon also
Going in
connects
the
with
lighthouse.
Scotland, as many of these structures date back to between 1200 BC and 400 AD. The most well-known examples in Ireland are the vitrified castle near the village of Shantamon in County Cavan, and another in County Londonderry, Northern Ireland. Both forts are on private land, so you need permission from the landowners to investigate. The mainstream explanation suggests that these forts were built using timber and stone,
Gotcha.
and the timber was then set alight to fuse the stone. However, there's actually more evidence supporting the existence of Archimedes' death ray than there is for this particular construction method, which isn't mentioned by any ancient text. Isn't that worth considering? While several ancient references support the concept of a death ray, modern experiments have also proven its feasibility. On the other hand, no modern experiments have successfully demonstrated that you can melt stone in this way for construction purposes. The phenomenon of vitrification isn't limited to Ireland and Scotland. It's a subject of study across the ancient world. Some researchers have even questioned whether the stones used in ancient Peruvian architecture were melted. Perhaps this connects with the Visby lenses, a collection of manufactured objects made of rock crystal found in Viking graves on the island of Gotland, Sweden. These lenses date back to the 11th or 12th century and possess surprisingly advanced characteristics like biaspheric surfaces and optimized surface profiles for better image quality. Interestingly, most of these Visby lenses were discovered alongside Viking artifacts, but their level of craftsmanship indicates a knowledge of optics that, according to mainstream scholars, shouldn't have existed back then. It's speculated that these lenses could have been produced in Byzantium or Eastern Europe, but that doesn't explain how they ended up with the Vikings of Gotland, who were the land of Gotland, Sweden. These lenses date back to the 11th or 12th century and possess surprisingly advanced characteristics like biaspheric surfaces and optimized surface profiles for better image quality. Interestingly, most of these Visby lenses were discovered alongside Viking artifacts, but their level of craftsmanship indicates a knowledge of optics that, according to mainstream scholars, shouldn't have existed back then. It's speculated that these lenses could have been produced in Byzantium or Eastern Europe, but that doesn't explain how they ended up with the Vikings of Gotland, who were themselves entrenched in complex trade networks. Interestingly, the Goths of Gotland also had many sun rune stones as well. There have been suggestions that these lenses could have been used for magnification, the creation of telescopes, and even starting fires. Well, we do know now that there is compelling evidence that intense heat turned some ancient cities or forts into glass. The root cause seems to point either to warfare or some cataclysmic event. Intriguingly, medieval lore is rife with stories of enormous fires descending from the sky and annihilating cities. This kind of narrative isn't new. We've all heard the biblical tale of Sodom and Gomorrah, where it rains sulfur and fire, akin to Greek fire. Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt, or vitrified. If it wasn't a death ray, some ancient cultures might have had the capability to project fire over a distance and intensify its heat with specific mixtures. Moreover, in Homer's Iliad, gods often intervene by sending down fire in various forms to assist one side or the other. Ancient texts from China and India also describe what could be considered advanced warfare, featuring fire arrows and other weaponry capable of being launched over significant distances. Some argue that these could be embellished accounts of real historical events, perhaps involving some form of ancient technology or natural phenomena. Also, the concept of the camera obscura connects with this. Mentioned by Aristotle in the 4th century BC, Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt, or vitrified. If it wasn't a death ray, some ancient cultures might have had the capability to project fire over a distance and intensify its heat with specific mixtures. Moreover, in Homer's Iliad, gods often intervene by sending down fire in various forms to assist one side or the other. Ancient texts from China and India also describe what could be considered advanced warfare, featuring fire arrows and other weaponry capable of being launched over significant distances. Some argue that these could be embellished accounts of real historical events, perhaps involving some form of ancient technology or natural phenomena. Also, the concept of the camera obscura connects with this. Mentioned by Aristotle in the 4th century BC, and later elaborated upon by Chinese Moist and Iraqi polymath Alhazen, reveals ancient interest in optics and light manipulation. Shen Kuo, a statesman from China's Song's dynasty, was the first to clearly outline the relationship between focal points, burning points, and the pinhole camera in his Dreampool essays from 1088 AD.
Right?
Then there are the biblical accounts, like the trumpets at the Battle of Jericho, which can be interpreted as a possible reference to ancient directed energy weapons. According to the story, the Israelites marched around Jericho's walls, culminating in priests blowing horns while carrying the Ark of the Covenant. The city walls then miraculously crumbled, allowing the Israelites to carry out a devastating attack. Is this discussing a form of ancient dew, potentially pointing to the use of acoustic energy weapons? This understanding has its roots in ancient
Acoustic
cymatics,
energy weapons.
which was incorporated into ancient architecture for positive spiritual pursuits. However, it's possible that the same knowledge was also harnessed for more nefarious purposes, such as causing destruction. The Book of Revelation delves even deeper, describing the 7 seals, the sounding of 7 trumpets, and the pouring of 7 bowls, all leading to catastrophic events on Earth. For instance, the first trumpet causes hail and fire mixed with blood to rain down, incinerating a third of the trees in all green glass. Revelation 8, verse 7. These narratives might well be describing some form of advanced, possibly weaponized technology or phenomena rather than merely divine intervention. The idea of trumpets or directed weapons causing localized destruction is a recurring theme in various medieval manuscripts, suggesting there's some substance to these accounts. And burning glass technology isn't confined to just Archimedes. We should also distinguish between burning mirrors and burning lenses. For instance, Proclus, a 6th century figure, is said to have used such technology to destroy Vitalian's fleet during the siege of Constantinople. Alhazen, too, discusses burning glasses in his Book of Optics, which itself draws from older Greek works.
Book of Optics.
Roger Bacon, the famous 13th century 7 bowls, all leading to catastrophic events on Earth. For instance, the first trumpet causes hail and fire mixed with blood to rain down, incinerating a third of the trees in all green glass. Revelation 8, verse 7. These narratives might well be describing some form of advanced, possibly weaponized technology or phenomena rather than merely divine intervention. The idea of trumpets or directed weapons causing localized destruction is a recurring theme in various medieval manuscripts, suggesting there's some substance to these accounts. And burning glass technology isn't confined to just Archimedes. We should also distinguish between burning mirrors and burning lenses. For instance, Proclus, a 6th century figure, is said to have used such technology to destroy Vitalian's fleet during the siege of Constantinople. Alhazen, too, discusses burning glasses in his Book of Optics, which itself draws from older Greek works. Roger Bacon, the famous 13th century alchemist, also wrote about the capabilities of burning glasses among other optical devices. The fact that this technology was discussed by alchemists implies some level of secrecy or specialized knowledge. There are actually many alchemical engravings that depict these devices. Giambattista della Porta, the author of Natural Magic, also talks about the application of burning glasses. Engravings from the 17th century confirm that these lenses were used for practical purposes like starting fires, validating their existence and use around the 1650s. In the realm of optical studies, the correspondence between Welsh mathematician John Bulkley and Thomas Harriot in the late 1590s offers more than meets the eye. Bulkley's inquiry about a gargantuan planospherical lens, 48 feet in diameter, has been largely dismissed as the ponderings of an imaginative mind, but such quick dismissal may be premature. Harriot's extensive calculation about the lens' optical and burning properties indicate a level of seriousness that should make us question whether this was merely a theoretical exercise or an exploration into something more substantial. Harriot's meticulousness in using both the sine law of refraction and interpolation from Whittelow's refraction tables showcases a scientist committed to precision. This suggests that he considered the concept of a large lens capable of burning objects from a distance inquiry about a gargantuan planospherical lens, 48 feet in diameter, has been largely dismissed as the ponderings of an imaginative mind, but such quick dismissal may be premature. Harriot's extensive calculation about the lens' optical and burning properties indicate a level of seriousness that should make us question whether this was merely a theoretical exercise or an exploration of magic. Also talks about the application of burning glasses. Engravings from the 17th century confirm that these lenses were used for practical purposes like starting fires, validating their existence and use around the 1650s. In the realm of optical studies, the correspondence between Welsh mathematician John Bulkley and Thomas Harriot in the late 1590s offers more than meets the eye. Bulkley's inquiry about a gargantuan planospherical lens, 48 feet in diameter, has been largely dismissed as the ponderings of an imaginative mind, but such quick dismissal may be premature. Harriot's extensive calculation about the lens' optical and burning properties indicate a level of seriousness that should make us question whether this was merely a theoretical exercise or an exploration into something more substantial. Harriot's meticulousness in using both the sine law of refraction and interpolation from Whittelow's refraction tables showcases a scientist committed to precision. This suggests that he considered the concept of a large lens capable of burning objects from a distance more than just an amusing mathematical problem. Also, Harriot was not working in a vacuum. The idea of large burning glasses was a part of an English tradition of inquiry about optics, fueled by audacious claims like those from Thomas Digges, who claimed that his father's glasses could burn objects located half a mile away. Given Harriot's systematic debunking of Digges' claims through his computations, it appears that Harriot was engaged in a fact-checking mission with the pursuit of keeping this knowledge secret. I mean, consider the timing of this dialogue. Harriot was investigating the properties of an enormous lens at a time when the interest in optics was rapidly growing, and when the field of optical weaponry has started to move beyond the realm of alchemy and folklore. His interest in a ginormous lens, therefore, could be seen not as a fanciful imagination, but as a deliberate probe into the boundaries of what was scientifically feasible, and perhaps what had been feasible in the past, but was lost or covered up for reasons unknown. Rapidly growing, and when the field of optical weaponry has started to move beyond the realm of alchemy and folklore. His interest in a ginormous lens, fueled by audacious claims like those from Thomas Digges, who claimed that his father's glasses could burn objects located half a mile away. Given Harriot's systematic debunking of Digges' claims through his computations, it appears that Harriot was engaged in a fact-checking mission with the pursuit of keeping this knowledge secret. I mean, consider the timing of this dialogue. Harriot was investigating the properties of an enormous lens at a time when the interest in optics was rapidly growing, and when the field of optical weaponry has started to move beyond the realm of alchemy and folklore. His interest in a ginormous lens, therefore, could be seen not as a fanciful imagination, but as a deliberate probe into the boundaries of what was scientifically feasible, and perhaps what had been feasible in the past, but was lost or covered up for reasons unknown. Whether a cover-up or a lost art, the meticulous study of such a colossal lens begs us to consider what capabilities might have been understood and perhaps applied in a less documented age. Let's consider the significant contributions burning glasses made to science. They were used in the 18th century chemical studies for burning materials in closed vessels, contributing to important discoveries. Lenses like these contributed to the discovery of dephlogisticated air, what we today know as oxygen. Clearly, this isn't just some magician's parlor trick. This is a device that has fundamentally shaped our understanding of the world. The burning lens of the Grand Duke of Tuscany was used by Sir Humphrey Davy and Michael Faraday to burn a diamond in oxygen on the 27th of March, 1814. Yet, what's intriguing is that this technology isn't just lost in the tomes of obscure history or relegated to children playing with magnifying glasses. The scientific community, from the Islamic world to medieval Christendom, actively researched burning glasses. So if a device like the burning glass has such an extensive documented history, complete with a significant role in scientific discoveries, why are we so quick to dismiss its military applications, especially those potentially harnessed by geniuses like Archimedes? Is it not conceivable that Archimedes could have taken the basic principles of the burning glass and amplified them with his unparalleled understandings of mathematics, optics, and physics? The puzzle pieces are there, but perhaps it's the lens through which we view history that needs adjustment. Could it be that we're reluctant to believe that the ancients might have had a grasp on what we consider to be modern technology? Is it easier to believe
Already.
that all the burning glasses and mirrors were nothing more than mere curiosities rather than potent scientific tools? The magnifying glasses. The scientific community, from the Islamic world to medieval Christendom, actively researched burning glasses. So if a device like the burning glass has such an extensive documented history, complete with a significant role in scientific discoveries, why are we so quick to dismiss its military applications, especially those potentially harnessed by geniuses like Archimedes? Is it not conceivable that Archimedes could have taken the basic principles of the burning glass and amplified them with his unparalleled understandings of mathematics, optics, and
On that note, hey, we're gonna stop right quick. I'm gonna restart the stream because I gotta hear the fucking game volume. Something happened. So, hey, I'll be right back in like a couple seconds. All right.
Message.